So if you want to introduce entrepreneurial thinking in a big company, it means one thing which is very difficult for big companies, which is trust your people, trust your experts, trust your teams. We had cases where traditional managers ruined creativity of teams just by being too close. And they were asking, yeah, but you support everything in George. You support insurances, you have 4 insurances, 10 insurances. So why do we have that? We have that because we learned from one big mistake. Focusing on mobile helped us a lot. And Romania, you know that Romania is practically a mobile-only market. And that was a revolution. We need to support more Romanian startups, and that's something different, and we will be the first bank in Romania that does that. So if you want money for your startup, you can apply 1st of January 2024. Thanks a lot for having me. I'm a bit of a, how shall I say, a bit of a misfit in 2 ways. First of all, sunt austriac, care crede foarte mult in Romania. Thank you for that. Really. And the second one is I spent 1/3 of my professional life in startups. And now I'm in the management board of BCR. And as you know, as Romanians, as we know in Romania, BCR is a solid, traditional company. And why would they, take the pain or the effort or maybe have the idea to work with people like me? And I think this is the story of a change, and I want to share this story with you. It's a story of how a traditional company incorporates things that we know from small companies, from startups. And as we heard from the previous speaker, from other big companies who say that they do that. I come from computer science myself, so I come actually from software development. So I know where these kind of things come from. Yeah? And if you have your own company for more than 10 years, you know how it feels. Yeah? When you lose customers, when you win customers, when you have problems with your bank, for example, you know how it feels and you can relate. And then sometimes when you see big companies trying to, be innovative and copy that, you see that it doesn't work, yeah, because something is missing, and I will share some stories about that. So, yeah, that was me. On startups. So how it doesn't work with startups. So what many big companies do, they invite startups for presentations, and then they say, you know what, this is a really interesting solution. It's always the same setting. You have 2 or 3 young, mostly it's IT and software. So you have 2 or 3 excellent IT people coming to a boardroom or a room full of people in suits, very often, still very often. Very many people, very often. And then at the end they say, yeah, this is very interesting, and we have an RFP out, yeah, or an RFI, so please, maybe in the 2 months we will come back to you. And then the startup thinks, yeah, that they really can answer to this RFP. Yeah? But as we know, corporate RFPs are not built for startups. So this is not how it works, because when the startup reads the RFP, the first thing they will say, sorry, we can forget that. Yeah? You have loads of red tape, you have loads of legal provisions, and basically this will ruin every startup. So this is not how it works. What do we do? So what we built is some kind of what we call a sandbox. Sandbox means that for certain areas, we do not apply our policies, compliance regulations, and we have a lot, obviously, as a bank. We do not apply them, and we give startups a safe space so they can do a project with us, maybe not with 200 pages of contracts. And this is, I think, a step forward. The other thing that we do, we keep startups close. And this is where we are the main driver behind an accelerator, and we are quite proud of that. This accelerator accelerated more than 100 companies, but that's not enough. Yeah, so they have their own office. They are with the startups. We are the big company. This is now how it works. You have to get these two worlds together. So how do we do this? By encouraging our management, our experts, our key people to become mentors. And that's not something that people do for fun, or it's work. It's solid work. Yeah, you have to spend time with these companies. You have to give them solid advice. You have to help them through the jungle of corporate life. And this is what more than 100 of our people do in BCR. They work with startups every day. So, that's also something where management comes in. Because if we don't think that this makes sense, we will not give people time for that. But we give people time for that. So this is how you bring the startups themselves in. Yeah? So you bring them in via the sandbox, and we have the accelerator. And I have a nice announcement, but I'll keep it for the end of the presentation so that you don't leave. The other topic is, how do we bring practices of startups into the company, into our daily life? And that's a bit more complicated. Because, there are extremes that we all know. There is what we call fake agile. Agile means, we just change our job titles. Every manager is now a product owner, and every project manager is now a scrum master. And we, basically, these teams have to sit together, which never works, by the way. So that's the one extreme. The other extreme is the so-called full agile transformation, which means you practically turn the company around 90 degrees. And that's something that costs a lot of big companies, and I won't give any names here, also from the banking sector, a lot of money because it doesn't work. You can't change a 4,000 people organization which is strictly regulated and treat it like a small software company, because the background is completely different. These companies and your company is maybe regulated. Your company has a responsibility for society, has a responsibility for a lot of employees. It's different if you have a company with 20 freelancers, that have a job somewhere else, or if you're responsible for 4,000 families. So you have to take things a bit more serious, and this is what we do. And also, we had this topic with remote work. Just as an example, we have the responsibility to be there for our customers, which means we have our employees in our branches. And of course, they cannot work from home. This just wouldn't work. And when we had the epidemic, when we had COVID, of course we had our people in the branches. And this was another kind of challenge. It was not because people like to, play with, sorry to say that, like to work at home because it's nicer. We had to go out when everybody else stayed home. So the extremes don't work. Just painting your organization agile or turning everything around 90 degrees so the one thing will kill you, the latter one, the first one will maybe have no effect at all. I mean, at least you have nice names now for LinkedIn, and you can call yourself Scrum Master. So how did we approach that? We decided to take one part of the organization, which was closely related, obviously, to digital, the George teams, the teams who are responsible for our customer-facing activities. And we created what we called labs. So we now have 13 of these labs. And this is where people work together according to agile principles, with all the challenges that this has. But it's not a whole organization. It's a part, and a part that works. And sometimes we create a lab because it fits. For example, the last lab that we created was a digital marketing lab. And sometimes we close labs, because it's not necessary anymore. I think this flexibility is very important. And it's a typical corporate mistake, because corporate people, they like org charts. And if you show them an agile org chart, they will think, this is another org chart. And then you will have this org chart, in beton for the next 5 years. And the world changes. And of course, your org chart doesn't, even if it's agile. So this flexibility is something we have to keep. And the other thing we have to understand as traditional companies, also as management in traditional companies, that agile or entrepreneurial thinking, and pardon me for using agile and entrepreneurial, for me it's the same thing, it's very similar. So if you want to introduce entrepreneurial thinking in a big company, it means one thing which is very difficult for big companies, which is trust your people, trust your experts, trust your teams. In traditional hierarchies, you have, the experts have become the VPs and then the CEOs. And very often, the CEO or the VP is the best expert in his field or her field. But if you want to really have an entrepreneurial spirit, you have to act differently. You have to give people a direction, a North Star, and then ask people, so how are we going to achieve that? And then let them work. And this is, for traditional managers, quite a challenge. Yeah? So we had cases where traditional managers ruined creativity of teams just by being too close. And if you bring young people in, that's not something that, that makes sense, it's a necessity. Yeah? If you bring people in from university and ask them what they think, how we can do things better, and then a senior manager comes in and ruins the day, they will never come up again with an idea. So this is a very subtle line you have to travel. You have to make sure that everything which happens fits to the corporate strategy, but you have to leave a bit room left and right. And you don't have to kill people if something goes wrong. That's another one. These things are super easily said, yeah? But if you're in the boardroom every week, yeah, and some things go wrong, yeah, of course, this is a big company. The question is, how you react as a board member makes a difference for everybody. Yeah, and it's something you have to really think about what this creates. And another challenge that many big companies have is, and that's another classic, we are now entrepreneurial. We have this team of super educated, clever people. We leave them alone, because we listen to Thomas, yeah? So they can work, and they come up with, they have their cycles, there's the Scrum cycles, and they came up with the MVPs and MMPs and everything. And then, we let them work, and after a year, controlling says, yeah, but honestly, so what's the, where's the value? Where's the profit? And then you look into it and you find out, yeah, these people do cool things, but these cool things are maybe not what you need to bring in more revenue, to reduce your cost. Well, it's normal. Why is this the case? This is totally normal. It comes from a complete misunderstanding of customer centricity in big companies. When you're a small company, when you're a startup, this is not a problem. You have a team, you develop a product, and the market reaction is immediate. So you immediately know, because you have customers, you have the thing on the web, you can measure, you immediately know if this monetizes or not. And nobody wrote a book about, if an MVP is successful or not, because if you're a small company. Problem, if you're a big company, yeah, maybe, whatever. You do cooling system and you do an app for end users. Does this bring any money? It's not so simple to answer anymore. The question is not so simple to answer anymore. But you should ask the question, and you have every right to ask this question. So finding, the feature value proposition, yeah? So what the team does, fast, and that's the next problem, They come up with a new feature every 2 weeks. And controlling is a business case. No, it's the old business case. No, we have a new feature. It doesn't work together. So bringing these things together was a big challenge for us. And it still is, when we work every day on that one. So I told you about the labs. The other things that we have is cross-functional teams. A cross-functional team is more ad hoc, where you say, we have a challenge in an area, we're not sure, shall we do a lab or not? Let's bring people together from business, from operations, from IT, from testing and marketing, and let's see how they develop. So also have the possibility, not to write a new chapter in your organizational book to set anything up. You know about George. You know that George supports a lot of digital journeys. But why? Yeah? But why do we have so many digital journeys in George? And yesterday I was in Vienna at the headquarters, and we have, once a year we have to go to the headquarters and present our strategic targets. And they were asking, yeah, but you support everything in George. You support insurances, 4 insurances, 10 insurances. So why do we have that? We have that because we learned from one big mistake. Yeah? And this big mistake was we had a multi-focus as a bank. And maybe if you're in retail, you see the same thing. We have many channels. We have branches. We have call center. We have chatbots. We have the mobile phone. But you have to set priorities. Of course, a branch needs a branch system. Or maybe not. Because what happens if you give this to your employees and the employees onboard a customer in a BCR branch with this one. And if you go to a BCR branch, this is what we are doing now. But it took us some time to learn. Before that, we tried too many things at once. Focusing on mobile helped us a lot. And Romania, you know that Romania is practically a mobile-only market. So if you go into a BCR branch, people, advisors who will help you, will ask you first, could you please give me your mobile phone? Of course, only if I will help you to install George, and then let's create the account, the card, the thing that you need together. And that was a revolution, because it saved us a lot of discussions, on a new branch system, on a new system for core banking. IT can be super complex, and processes can be super complex, but with that one, we simplified a lot. And another thing is, it took us months, I think it was 4 months, for a branch advisor to understand all the processes and the complexity that we have in our systems. With George or with this, you have to make it simple. Yeah? You have to make it simple for your customers, which means as a byproduct, it's also simple for your employees. That's another learning. Use the same channel for your customers and for your employees. And it took us some time, honestly. So we tried special cases, we tried special applications, but this is where we ended. We have the financial coach. The financial coach is a special application that will also bring to this platform, to George, that will help you to get advice about the financial life. And what we can do, we can always link it with people. So when somebody helps you to use your mobile phone to open your account, chances are, if you have a problem, you will ask that person and say, do you know anything about investments? Do you know anything about EU funds that may be applicable for my company? So that's it, a bit from, talking from the kitchen, so to say. Maybe at the end, because I promised something. So we will take our story with startups further, because we believe in Romania. Romania is a very digital nation. I did my homework, and if you compare the output of Romanian universities, Polytechnica, with the output of German, Swiss, or Austrian universities, it's double the output. So we have a very technical foundation in our education. Through our investments, through the near-sourcing investment of the last 10, 20 years, and many of us are here because of these near-sourcing investments, we have a huge amount of capable IT people and managers, and this together means we need to support more Romanian startups. And now comes the announcement. So BCR, we will set up a corporate venture company that is 100% owned by BCR to provide equity to Romanian startups. And that's something different, and we will be the first bank in Romania that does that. So if you want money for your startup, you can apply 1st of January 2024. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. Seriously speaking, so it's a very interesting experience to be shared. How it's like to join a corporation with a very strong entrepreneurial background. I do recommend our audience to read the story about Thomas' career on IQDigital.ro, because as I mentioned before, this is not just an event. So how it's like?
Yeah, I mean, I have the luck that we have a strong management team that will not kill me after this presentation, for example, yeah, because they're saying what Thomas is saying. So this is part of our corporate credo, and we all believe that this is the only way forward. I mean, in a way, that's a challenge that every company has now, because, as I said it, young people don't want to work in a command and control structure. I mean, I never wanted to work in a command and control structure either, so I can relate. But you know, it's a democratic movement of young people, well educated, and we all need them. Mm-hmm. And they want to know what they're working for, what is the purpose, and they want to contribute. And if you don't create an organization in a way that people can contribute, yeah, you will be dead in 5 years, maybe 10.
We have a lot of questions, so the smart questions will start now, because it will be not mine. So somebody's asking, a digital bank is also built with digital nomadic employees in 2023. I'm curious to find what's your policy on work from anywhere, if it's possible to run a bank with remote teams, and what's your opinion on this phenomenon, pros and cons? How do you address this challenge?
It's a very, very interesting topic, because it relates to one of the things we said. So we said, for example, we want to have 2 million customers, active customers in George. So this is our business target. And then we asked the teams, because people came and said, I want to work fully remote. We said, can you manage? We asked the teams, can you manage? And this is, the answer was different. You know, there were teams who said, no problem, we can manage, yeah? Because the nature of our activity, because the nature of the people that work in the team, they could manage, and they managed. And some teams said, we can't. So maybe Monday and Friday, but the rest of the week we like to be together. We tried it out, so we experimented with that, and it didn't feel right. So we leave it to the teams, and they find the right solution, because they know.
There are a lot of questions, and I will try to select some of them, but I do promise I will take all of them and send them to Thomas, and then we will publish the question and answers on our website in the next days. So if you asked a good question, you will find your answer anyway. Also, somebody it's raising an interesting discussion. Very challenging promises or facts from George app. So, in theory, you can do a lot of things in the app, which is something new and challenging for a traditional bank. In minutes, okay, getting a loan, signing on life insurance, and so on and so forth. But is the audience prepared for all those advanced features, or we still need, or we still have to educate also the customers how to use digital? So even if the app is very nice and capable, is your audience digitally ready for that?
You know, every year it gets more digitally ready, so it's a demographic trend, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Currently we are at 70%, 70. So we measure in the branches, and we measure online. So if 100% of people, you know, come and want to, just an example, open an account with us, 70% of them will do it digitally, alone or with us. And 30 not. But I mean, that's another thing what I said. Yeah? We can't turn the whole bank around and make it a direct bank like Revolut. We will never do this, because we are here for the 30%, but we are also here for the other 70% when they want a loan, when they are not sure about investments, when they are not sure about subsidies. It's not an either or.
Yeah, the elephant is in the room. A lot of questions are like, okay, how afraid or challenged are you by other apps, by global fintech apps or apps that are pretending that are doing specific, I know, banking services, but they are not really doing that. How George is reporting to those?
George is part of the competition, and I think that's also, this is the fun part, yeah, because we like to compete, and if we look at this morning I was looking at the ratings at the App Store, so 4.9, 4.8, so it's a battle for the better user interface. We are in the top 2 or 3, depending on the month, and we will continue to play here. That's clear, and of course I think what we can do compared to direct banks is we have both, and you know, every time in everybody's life there comes the time when you need a mortgage, yeah, for normal people, yeah, and when you need a mortgage, obviously you want to talk to somebody, yeah? At least I talk to somebody when I got my mortgage.
There are a lot of mean questions. I like that.
Go with the mean question. Come on.
I like Timișoara.
Mean
so
questions.
somebody is saying, okay, from the outside, the statement is the bank, like the size of BCR, acts and things like a startup. Seems to me more like a hard-to-support PR approach. What are your main arguments to prove that I'm wrong?
Yeah, you can comment. Two things maybe. You can become a pilot user of George Business. Yeah, that's something that we do with customers who are willing to support us on product development, because we believe in customer integration. And the other one, you can maybe see how the labs work. I'm not saying we are a startup. Yeah, I'm saying we are using startup practices in areas where they make sense.
Yeah, I was pretty like.
I was a bit too enthusiastic.
As a parenthesis. I was pretty enthusiastic about the approach, and maybe it's in a very short story. Sorry if you covered that. I had some crisis to solve behind the scenes, but it's pretty interesting how you've actually launched and incubated George independently from the bank, and there are also questions asking how long did you worked at the app behind the scenes before launching, if it's ready, when it will be ready. So if you can share a little bit.
So the product, the first George version came out after roughly 1.5 years.
Oh,
so we had a
pretty fast.
We have this lab setups not only in Bucharest, yeah, we have them also in Vienna, and we work together with the labs there, and they are also separate. So the product organization is separate from the traditional IT organization, from the traditional bank.
Do you think this is the only way for a big company to innovate, to just put somehow in competition
Yeah, you need a bit of competition is healthy for business, you know, that's the old saying. I believe in that, because corporations have a lot of red tape, and even if you are, you know, if you are a lab in a traditional company, you still have to struggle compared to if you're completely free. But you need, of course, to be related.
Another interesting question. You're a tech person, and I've watched your biography, and you have a lot of technical background. What's your opinion in this capacity on blockchains, digital currencies, and/or cryptocurrencies?
Yeah. No, I have one of my hobbies.
Be careful what you're saying.
No,
this will go viral directly.
Come on. You know, one of my hobbies is I'm kind of teaching these kind of topics in Vienna at the university, and we have this. And of course, people know that I'm from a bank. So, you know, every person is responsible for his or her own investment decisions. Yeah, and there are crazy things you can invest in. Yeah, and if you're bit close to investment, you know that cryptocurrencies are not the most exotic assets.
For example, BCR investing in IQ Digital is even crazier.
Or credit default swaps. Yeah. So I mean, if you talk about derivatives, and there are a lot of private individuals and companies who invest into derivatives. Sometimes, how shall I say? I'm not sure if people really understand what they're investing in, yeah? Because it's very complex. It can be very complex. And crypto is the same topic. Crypto is something very complex that you need to fully understand. And which means you need to explain a lot. Yeah? And if you, for example, want to buy a credit default swap from our treasury, you will sit with somebody and have a long discussion, yeah, about your currency situation, about the kind of hedging. And so
Somebody else is asking also if you are utilizing in any way blockchains or you plan to utilize blockchains.
we did a few experiments on blockchain, but we could not start the whole blockchain discussion. We stopped them. The blockchain discussions, the blockchain experiments, sorry.
Why?
The use cases, because the nature of centralized systems, yeah, for banks is such that they have an unfair advantage over blockchain. We have one blockchain use case that is still currently active, which is a network use case, where we use blockchains, for example, to validate customer data, but the problem here is cartel law, so competition law.
Okay, so it's not possible legally speaking
it's
for
legally
a bank.
not possible. Technically, it would be possible.
Okay.
But we had to finish it because we would not be able to invest to go to market with that one. And that's actually not a Romanian problem. We have it in a lot of European countries.
But it's not fair for the banks.
Yeah, because the nature of the cartel law. I mean, this is not a political discussion because I mean,
it can be.
Competition law is there for a purpose, yeah, to protect the consumer. And the nature of blockchain is that it brings parties who do not trust each other together. That's the whole idea of blockchain. Yeah, cash is a perfect example. Cash is bringing people who don't trust each other together.
Yeah.
And
true.
blockchain does the same thing without cash. So these are the kind of use cases. And of course, when banks work together with other companies, competition law applies very soon. And so when we have to be compliant or innovative, we choose to be compliant.
We have a lot of questions. That means that the presentation was good. The last one, actually I will try to put two questions in one, is what's the ideal scenario for George in, 3 to 5 years or even less? What's the, what long-term means anymore? And let's start
with this one.
Because I think it's also connected with the fact. Another question that is very interesting is regarding the why digitalization is good in general. The banks are pushing the digitalization, and Erste is one of the pioneers in pushing a dedicated digital product. Maybe digital banking and so on and so forth. So. Is the future of George becoming a digital bank to be more direct or not?
So start with the second part. I repeat what I said. We are here for people. There are demands that can be fulfilled online, and this makes life easier for you and for us. And there are things where you need advice. Yeah. So you saw the financial coach. That's a coaching session we have done together with hundreds of thousands of our customers. And this is a very open and a very important discussion. The question is, how can you imagine your financial life in the next 10 years? Yeah? And something, I know, it's not a discussion that is easy to do, and it's not something you would start with a machine maybe. Yeah? You can continue with a machine, but you start with a person. So we will have always be listed. But what will come for George? This is the second question, I remember. Yeah, we are over time, I'm sorry. So what will come for George? George for Business will come. That's the big thing ahead. And investments.
So to clarify, we have George for consumer, George for small businesses that is already out there, and George for bigger
businesses, yeah. So
will be launched soon.
So the idea is if you're a small business and you do everything yourself, I mean, there is no need for additional functionality. But if you have the size where you have a dedicated person who does your accounting, does your bookkeeping, writes your invoices, we know all that, yeah, then it makes sense because then you can have roles for this person to, for example, do the payments, and you can focus on the management side of those things. So this is quite helpful.
Thank you very much.